We begin today the Gemara, Daf Kufyud Beis, Amud Beis, 4 lines from the bottom of the Amud, where it says, Omar Ravina. The Gemara here was discussing the halachas of Bezdin paskening a din, when the Baal Din is not present there, and then the Gemara got into the discussion regarding coming and collecting a loan when the person's out of town. So what's the process of how long Bezdin waits to collect this loan? They have to notify him about this. So here the Gemara discusses Bechlal, Benegay to Bezdin, sending a shliach to summon someone to a din Torah. Amar Ravina said, Hai shlucha de Rabbanon, this messenger, the shliach that the Bezdin sends, and he goes to summon someone to a din Torah, and he comes back to the Bezdin to notify the Bezdin about this, that I gave him the summons, and the person doesn't show up. We trust the shliach like two people, like Eidim, that he did his job, and he gave the person the summons, and if he doesn't show up, then we can take the next step. We only trust him if, as a result, what we're going to do is we're going to place him into some kind of excommunication. But if, as a result of what the shliach is reporting, that this person is not showing up, and then we want to write a psicha. Psicha is actually a shtar, a certain document that Bezdin writes, which is also a certain level of excommunication, but it's being documented. This is something which we're not going to do just based on the words of the shliach of the Bezdin, because kivin de memayne machaser. You're causing this person that you're excommunicating to have a loss of money. Why? Chasale. Because the kabayla lemeisav lezuza lesafra. Because who's going to have to pay for the scribe of the Bezdin to write this document that's excommunicating him? That individual himself has to pay the expenses for this. So if you're going to make him pay for it, you can't rely just on the report of the Shliach Bezdin himself for this. So you don't rely on him. You have to have Eidim that testify, that tell us that this person got the summons and he's still not showing up. Omar Ravina said another halacha when it comes to this, to summoning summons, to get someone to come to the Bezdin. Yavinan zimne apume de itzva apume de shivivi. You can deliver a summons to come to a din Torah even through a woman that's going to that place where the person is, or even by neighbors, that are friends, neighbors that are going there to that place to invite this person. Says the Gemara, though, there are different conditions to this. When we rely on a woman or on a neighbor, not a proper shliach bezdin, just a woman or a neighbor, we rely on them to go and bring this person to the bezdin. B'masa, that is. If this person that they're going to let know that he has to come to Bezdin, that person is not in the city here. But if he's here in the city where the Bezdin is, so then we don't rely on a woman or a neighbor to go and invite him to the Bezdin. Because because then we could say that this woman or this neighbor is not going to let this person know about this. Because they think that since the person is here in the city, the Bezdin will already figure this out. The Bezdin will already send their shliach to this person that's right here to let him know. So they won't do this. And the shliach Bezdin will not let this person know to come to the Bezdin. Furthermore, even if this person that the woman or neighbor was sent to bring to the Bezdin, but if that person is taka out of the city, but when he comes back home, he doesn't walk through the Bezdin. He doesn't pass through where Bezdin is. So then the woman or this neighbor will take seriously this, that they have to invite this person to the Bezdin. But if this person on his way home, he passes through the door, the place where the Bezdin is, so then we can't rely on this woman. Because Amri, they will say to themselves, Ashkachua, Beidina v'Amri leit. The Bezdin themselves will find this person which passes through on his way home, passes through the Bezdin, and the Bezdin himself will take care of it. Furthermore, that we're talking about a case, Ella the Asibiyim, that is. If this is a case where this person, he's coming back, he's out of the city, but he's coming back on this day. So therefore, if you send a woman or a neighbor, they're going to make sure to let him know that he has to come to Bezdin. If he's out of the city and he's not coming back on that day, he's coming back a week later, whenever it is, then we can't rely on this woman or the neighbor to invite him to the Bezdin, because they're going to push it off. They say, he's not going back home now anyway, so they're going to forget about it and they're not going to invite him to come to the Bezdin. Rava said something else. Al delayasi lidine, what we mentioned before, that you write a document which places a person into some level of excommunication for the fact that he didn't come to the Bezdin, ad the asi lidine, until he actually shows up in the Bezdin, loim bekarinale. We don't tear this document that placed him in this excommunication. Al delaytzayis lidine, if a person was placed into an excommunication because he didn't follow the orders of the Bezdin, so then ad tzayis loim bekarinale. So that chayrim, also we don't tear this, we don't remove it until he actually follows and listens to what Bezdin says. But on this last point, the Gemara says v'loihi, we don't have to wait until he actually listens. Kivin the Omar saisana karinale. As soon as a person lets us know that he's ready to follow, then we will tear it up. We'll remove this chayrim on him. The Rishonim say that that's only if it happens the first time. If after this happens again and he says he's going to listen and he doesn't, then we have to wait until he actually listens. Amar Rav Chisda said, going back to what the Gemara mentioned before on Daf Kuf Yud Beis, that you give a person time to come to the Bezdin. He's invited to come Monday, and then the next Thursday, and then the next Monday. We give him 3 chances to come to the Bezdin. So Amar Rav Chisda, Koivim Zman, we set a time for him to come to the Bezdin, Sheni, V'chamishi, V'sheni, Monday, Thursday, and Monday. And how do you set the time for him? Zimna, Vizimna, Basa Zimna. You don't set all 3 times right in the beginning and tell him you can come Monday, Thursday, or the next Monday. You set him a time to come Monday. And then you have to go and invite him again and set another time for him if he doesn't show up on Thursday. And if he doesn't show up Thursday, you have to invite him again and set a time for him on the following Monday. Lemachar, and then after the second Monday, if he doesn't show up, that means you wait until the end of the day. You give him a chance to come all day. And then the next day on Tuesday, kasvinon. Then we could write this pischa, which is this psicha that's called, this excommunication that he didn't show up. Ravasi ikla be Rav Kahana. Ravasi was visiting but with Rav Kahana. Chazahi itze, the Azmir Ladina Bepanya. He saw there was a certain woman that he invited her to come to the Bezdin in the evening. That's when her court date in Bezdin was. She didn't show up. The next morning, Kasav ala psicha. So he wrote on her this excommunication for not showing up. So he didn't give her any time. Like we just said, he give 3 chances, Monday, Thursday, Monday, right away the next morning. Amalei, so Ravasi says to Rav Kahana, Leisaval Amar, Laha, the Omer Rav Chisda, do you not agree to this that Rav Chisda said, Kaiven Zman, Sheni v'chamishi v'sheni? We establish and we give 3 times for a person to show up before we write this psicha. Amalei, so Rav Kahana that is answered, Hanemili Gavra, the honest. This is only by a man, which could be busy, things out of his control that he can't show up. Velese b'maseh is not here in the city. Aval itze, but regarding a woman that's not working and she's not busy, kivin the isa b'maseh, she's right here in the city. V'lo yasi, and she didn't show up to the Bezdin the first time she was summoned to come. Meiredesi, she's rebellious against the Bezdin, so right away the next morning he wrote a psicha against her. Amar Rav Yudah said regarding summoning one to the Bezdin, you can't set a date for a din Torah that someone has to come to the Bezdin on any day. So he says like this: La Yavina Zimna, you can't set a date for someone to come to the Bezdin. Lo b'yom Nisan, not during the month of Nisan. Lo b'yom Tishri, not during the month of Tishrei. Now the reason for this is because in Nisan time and Tishrei time, Nisan is the time of when it's the harvest season, and Tishrei time is also a person is busy with gathering in all the produce from the field. So a person is busy with this work, so he can't show up to the Bezdin. Not on Erev Yom Tov, Shabbat, not on Erev Shabbos either. So some of the Paiskim say that in today's time, when people are not busy working in the field, so the point here about Nisan and Tishrei doesn't apply, because people are not busy with this kind of things. Now, Avol mi Nisan, lebasa yom Nisan. If you set a date, you tell a person during the month of Nisan that you're setting a date for him to come to the Bezdin after Nisan. Or b'yom Tishrei, lebasa Tishrei. During the Tishrei month, you're telling him to come to the Bezdin after Tishrei. Kavina. You could set it that way, and the person will remember this and will show up, or will have to show up after Nisan or Tishrei. However, mimayla Shabbat lebasa mayla Shabbat, to let a person know on Friday, out of Shabbos, that he has to show up to the Bezdin after Shabbos on Monday, or lebasa mayla Shabbat, well, it's on a Monday, because that's when the Bezdin in those times was. So then, like Kavina. That you can't let a person know on Friday that he has to show up to the Bezdin, because he's so busy on Friday that he's going to forget what he was told on Friday and he's not going to show up. As Gemara says, my time why bavirite the Shabbat taught it with the preparations of Shabbos, he's very preoccupied and he won't remember that he was invited to come to the Bezdin. Amar Rav Nachman says, Lo yavinun zimne, we cannot set a date for people that have to show up to the Bezdin, Lo yiluvnei kala bekala, not for the people that come into the city and they're here for what? They came for Shabbos, for the special drasha that there is to learn Torah. Kala refers to the Torah. They came specially to learn Torah in this time. So they're coming for this purpose. So the Shliach Bezdin wants to chaparain, oh, you have the person available here, so let him know that he's summoned to the Bezdin. No, but it's not the time that you can go and approach them and invite them to come to the Bezdin. And also, and also people that come 30 days before the Yom Tiv, when they came, especially to hear the drasha, the halachas of the Yom Tiv, that's not a time that you approach them to set a date for a din Torah. The Gemara brings a story about this. Rav Nachman, when the people would come to Rav Nachman for a drasha to learn, and so that is, the shliach of the Bezdin would want to come and invite those people that came to summon them to Adin Torah. So Rav Nachman said, Amaluhu, he said to them, did they gather here for your purpose? That the Bezdin should summon them to Adin Torah? They came over here to learn Torah. So when they come over here to learn Torah, don't summon them to Adin Torah, because if you're going to do that, they're not going to want to come learn here again. They're going to be afraid that you're going to summon them to the Bezdin. However, now that there are those people that are thieves or people that are trying to charlatans, the people that are trying to avoid the Bezdin, chayshinan. So then we have to be concerned about this. Meaning, you have to see, is the person really coming to learn and sincerely, and therefore then you cannot summon them to the Bezdin. But if it's people that are just coming to the shul, so to avoid the Shliach Bezdin, so then the Shliach Bezdin could go and summon them. Going back to what it said in the Mishnah, this is speaking about the case where a person stole and then he gave it to his children and he passed away. Now his children have this object that was stolen in their possession. So the Mishnah said, if what they have is a dava sheyesh b'achrayis, chayav l'shalom. So here the Gemara follows the pshat that we had before in the beginning of this Perek, that it's referring to the object itself that was stolen. If that object itself that was stolen is similar to a piece of land that doesn't go anywhere, and everybody knows who it originally belonged to. So too, if you have any object that everybody recognizes this, that it belonged to the nigzal, so in such a case, the children, even though they don't have a chiyuv to return it to the owner, because this yiyush and this sheni rishos, but nevertheless, for the covet of their father that passed away, they should return it to the owner. Otherwise, people are going to say, look who the father was, he was a gazlan. Masno Rabbi le Rab Shimon berei, so Rabbi taught Rab Shimon, his son, it doesn't literally mean a piece of land. You have a cow and you're plowing it, a donkey and you're leading it. So this is something that people notice who the original owner is. You have to return it to the owner because of the covet, the honor of the father of these children here, that people shouldn't say that he was a gazlan. So Rav Kana asked Rav about this. How about mita, a bed, or mesav, and you recline on it in your house, or shulchan vaychal olav, a table that the father stole and now the children have it and they eat on it on the table. Mahu, what's the halacha here? Is this something that you also have to return or not? So now she explains the basis of the Gemara Shaila here is, when it comes to a cow or a donkey which is outdoors and everybody sees, so maybe only then you have to return. That was the example that Rebbe gave to his son Rab Shimon. Maybe a table or a bed which is inside the person's house, only people that come into the house will see this. Even though it's something it's recognizable who it originally belonged to, but only if you come into his house. So maybe that you don't have to return. So I've answered, give a wise man one example and he'll be wise himself and apply the same to other examples. So what I was saying, that Rebbe gave the example of a cow or a donkey, but you have to apply that to any other object where it's noticeable that it belonged to the original owner, you have to return that. Yeah, it's a pasuk. This is a pasuk in Mishlei, but the Gemara is applying it over here in this case. You give one example, and a wise person uses this and understands the same applies in other cases. You cannot get change. The person has money and he wants to get change from a place where there's money there, so you can't get change. Not from the box where the meichsen, the tax collectors, have their money there, and or the wallet of gaboim, which is other kind of tax collectors. Meichsen are tax collectors that collect the what kind of taxes they collect. The more general taxes, well, over here, Rashi says that moichsin are the ones that collect head tax and property tax. Gaboyin are the ones that take taxes, like you said, for customs, for people that have merchandise and business and things like that. Either way, from any of these kinds of tax collectors, you're not allowed to get change from the money that they have. The point of it here is the money that they have, as the Gemara will explain, we're talking over here about tax collectors that are not honest. And they collect taxes from people that they aren't supposed to. It's gezela. This is money which is gezela. So if it's money that's gezela, you may not use it for your benefit, even if you just need change from it. You want to change $1 for 4 quarters or whatever it is, you're not allowed to use to get change from this money because it's stolen money. So don't use it in any way for your benefit. And you can't take from it also any tzedakah to give people tzedakah from this because it's stolen money. There could be stolen money in it. But from this tax collector, if it's not from that kiss or from the teva where he keeps this money that he collected for the tax, just from his house or from money that he has in the marketplace, and you want to exchange money with him or get money from him, that's allowed. That we don't suspect to be stolen money. Tane, says the Gemara, we learned in the Braisa regarding this. But if it's a case where you're not coming to get a certain benefit from this money, you're not trying to exchange money or get change for your money, but you just want to pay the taxes and you have to pay a half a dinner. But you only have a full dinner. So you're allowed to give the dinner and get the change then for this that you gave. You're not doing it here for your benefit. You have to pay the taxes and you get the change. That you're allowed. So the Gemara weiter. Now here the Gemara will get into a whole discussion regarding these tax collectors. What does this mean that the tax collectors are stealing money? Isn't this taxes? They're collecting the taxes. So why is this any gzela involved over here? So fragt the Gemara, tax collectors. So we say that you're not allowed to take any money from them and so on or use it. But didn't Shmuel say dina de malchusa dina? The laws of the government and a country, al pitaira, you have to follow these laws. So if these are the taxes, and then you're obligated to follow these laws, what kind of exile is there involved in this? Here, this is the sugya, this is the source of this whole concept. Dina de malchusa dina, the Gemara will discuss this here, and later on at length. And the Rishonim will discuss this concept of dina de malchusa dina, that this refers to any country a person is in, not only in Eretz Yisrael, anywhere in the world, not only a Jewish king, any government, any Goyish government that you're living in, you have to follow the laws of the country. And some Rishonim say the reason is because in order for there to be civility and to be able to live, you have to have roads and all the other services that a country needs. So you have to have a government and you have to have taxes. So therefore, you have to follow. And if not, people can't live in this world. That's one of the reasons that the Rishonim say. There's other reasons as well, but Akopanim, this is Dina de Malchusa Dina.
Not based on a pasuk.
No, it's not based on a pasuk, but I think there are even some Rishonim that say that Dina de Malchusa Dina is Minatayra, not just Midrabanan. Remember now the source for this. I don't think there's a pasuk for it, but some say that this is a halacha that has a taikif Minatayra, Dina de Malchusa Dina. So that's the Gemara's question here. What does it mean that the Meichsen are Gazlanim? We're talking over here about a tax collector that has no limits. He doesn't have a certain percent or tax bracket that he comes and collects. He takes extra, more, whatever he desires. So this is someone that just takes, even with something that doesn't, the government doesn't deserve to take it all. So there's gzela involved in this. The Rabbi Yanai said even further, what we're talking about over here is we're talking about a tax collector, a self-appointed tax collector that's going around and collecting taxes from people, and he doesn't have this kayach of dina de malchusa dina. So even if it's a case where the king is turning a blind eye, the government is turning a blind eye, and they allow him to collect taxes and so on, but nevertheless, it's gzela. There are those that taught both of these answers that we just said now regarding the following Mishnah here. Mishnah says, "La yilbash adam kalayim." Person may not wear any garment which is kalayim, shatnez. Afil al gabi asada begadim. Even if you're wearing 10 layers of garments, you may not wear this garment that has a shatnez in it. La vriach bayis meches. And even if you're wearing these 10 layers of garments, why are you wearing 10 layers of garments? Because you want to avoid paying taxes. If you're importing merchandise, so you're going to have to pay taxes for this. But if you put on the 10 layers of these garments, then what you're wearing, you don't pay taxes for. So even if you're wearing the garments for that purpose, you're not allowed. So the Gemara says on this that this is actually machlokes masnisin the loiker Rabbi Akiva. What it says here in the Mishnah is not according to Rabbi Akiva's opinion, because the Tanya and a Brayso we learned aser la'avriach hasameches. You're not allowed to wear these garments in order to avoid paying the taxes. Rab Shimon mishum Rabbi Akiva, but Rab Shimon says in the name of Rabbi Akiva, mutar la'avriach hasameches, that if you're wearing the shatnez for the purpose of avoiding paying the taxes, then it's allowed. So the Gemara explains what the argument over here is regarding wearing shatnez, and you're wearing it not because you need the benefit of the garment that you're wearing. You're just wearing it to avoid the taxes. So what is the machlokes here? Says the Gemara, klayim. So it's understood regarding the iser of wearing this garment, klayim, shatnez, Bava Kama. So this is what their argument is. The Mar Sovar, Rabbi Akiva says, Dava she'ein miskaven mutter. Since you're wearing these garments and you don't have any intention to have any benefit of it, you're not getting warmer by it, you're not interested in that, you just want to avoid paying the taxes, so therefore it's allowed. Omar Sovar, however, Tanna Kama here holds that Dava she'ein miskaven aser. Even if you're not having any intention to have any anah of this, but nevertheless the fact is that you're wearing it on yourself, so it's aser as well. That's what their argument is about. Obviously, this is talking about a situation where wearing this extra layer of a garment is not psik reisha, meaning it's not going to automatically give you any anah. So therefore, the fact that the person does not have kavanah, he's not interested in having anah, he just simply wants to avoid the taxes. So according to Rabbi Akiva, that's allowed. So that's understood. But this that it says here in this Mishnah that the person is doing so in order to avoid paying the taxes. Mi shari, is that allowed? The laws of the government is a din that you have to follow. And on this, we give both answers we mentioned before. So one answer in the name of Shmuel was, the tax collector collects whatever he wishes beyond any limits, and therefore this is exiled. The Rab Yanai said, this is a tax collector, a self-appointed tax collector. Gemara brings a third case where this is brought up. There are those that brought both of these answers regarding this Mishnah in Masechta Nedarim. The Mishnah Nedarim says like this: Noidrin, a person makes a neder, and here this person is making a neder for the purpose of sort of showing that what he's saying is true. He wants to prove that what he's saying is true. So he makes a neder laharagin or laharamin or lameichsen, to people that are murderers or people that come haramin, they steal your property, or lameichsen, people that are tax collectors and they want to come and steal your produce and your property. So you're making a neder to promise them, to guarantee them that they shouldn't touch it. Why? Because she shall truma, because this is truma, it belongs to the kind, it's not even yours. She shall beis hamelech, or that you're saying that it belongs to the king, and therefore you're avoiding them of taking this. Even though this is not true, it's not truma, and it does not belong to the king. So this is allowed. This is the kind of neder. The neder won't even take effect. This is the Gemara there says this is what's called nidrei einsin, when you take a neder because of something that was out of your control, so therefore this doesn't take effect at all. But the question of this is ulameichsen, when it mentions here that you're allowed, that this kind of neder, you can do this because of a tax collector. Why? And on this we gave both answers that we said before. Or the Rab Yanai Amri b'meiches ha'omed meyelov, the tax collector that is doing this on his own. Now here the Gemara brings a third answer. Ravashi says b'meiches kanani. We're talking over here about a tax collector which is a guy. And the simple pshat of the Gemara, this means that if the tax collector is a guy, so even if he is collecting the taxes honestly, and he's not adding, he's not changing, but nevertheless, if it's a guy, you're allowed to avoid and lie to the guy and not pay him the taxes. That's a simple pshat of the Gemara, and that's what it seems like from Rashi. There is, in the Gemaras, in the other Gemaras, it's printed Kanani, I'll get the Gemara later, we'll see over here. Kanani, it doesn't mean only a Kanani, it means any guy. That's a simple pshat of the Gemara. But in other Rishonim clearly say that when it says here, Avashi says, b'moiches Kanani, he doesn't mean dafka a guy. He means a guy that collects the taxes not honestly. That's what it really means. And it's lav dafka a guy. It could be a yid, a tax collector as well, when he's not collecting these taxes honestly. Because if it's a guy that's collecting honestly, you're not allowed to steal from him as well. There's no difference. And Alter Rebbe and Shulchan Aruch, paskins like these Rishonim that say that it's dafka a moiches Kanani that's not collecting the taxes honestly. Now the Tanya, we learned in the Braise, some here are guided actually that it's not the Tanya, it's not mamish a hemshich to what we just said, it's a new subject. Yisrael v'Kanani anos. If you have a Yid or a Kanani and Anos. A Kanani Anos simply means a guy that's someone that we know he'll steal from you, or a Kanani Anos, someone that's very he's someone that you can't rely on. A Ganev, a Ganev. That's a simple pshat of the Gemara. So here as well, okay, let's first see what it says in the Gemara. Shabal Ledin. So this Yid and this guy are together in a din Torah and they come to a Yiddish Bezdin. In such a case, if you could see to it that the Yid should be the one that wins the din Torah, according to the halachas of the Yidden, Zakeyu, so the Yid should be the one that should come out meritorious. And you tell the guy, Kach dinenu. This is the halacha. This is we're paskening according to the halacha. And bedine kananim, and that's the point of it here is even if the halacha wasn't so, but nevertheless you should make the Yid should win and the guy should lose, and you tell the guy this is what the halacha is. Or bedine kananim, or if the only way you can convince the guy and tell him that the Yid is right and you're wrong, if you could only tell him by saying that this is the law, even in the legal court system, Zakeyu ve'amar lekach dinchen. You should make the Yid win and tell the guy that this is even your law, and this is the legal law as well. And if it's impossible to have the Yid win and the guy lose by any of these ways, you should do it in some kind of roundabout way to make the guy lose the din Torah. This is what Rabbi Shmuel says. So again, here regarding what it says in the Gemara, Kanani Anos, there's a discussion in this in the Rishonim and the Paiskim. What are we talking about over here? Some say that when it says here in the Gemara Anos, you can take out the word Anos. The censors, they added it later on in the Gemara, and this is regarding any Yid and any guy that's in a din Torah. You should make the Yid win and the guy lose. But others say no, it's talking dafka about a Kanani, which is an Anos, meaning someone that you know that this guy is going to steal from the Yid anyways, or this guy that's very aggressive. That's another pshat of Anos. He's very aggressive and therefore the Yid is afraid of him and this is not a fear din Torah altogether. That's the case when it's saying over here that you should make the Yid win and the guy lose. And I believe that that's how the Alter Rebbe Paschal and Shulchan Aruch. The Alter Rebbe brings these halachas in Hilchas Gzeila and Choshen Mishpat. Rabbi Kiva says, Ein bon olav ba'akifin. This is not something that you can do to try some kind of roundabout way to make the Yid win and the guy lose. If nekiddush Hashem, because you have to sanctify Hashem's name. If this happens and the guy realizes what happened there, it'll be achil Hashem. So the Gemara asks him this for Rabbi Kiva. Now, according to Rabbi Kiva, the only reason Rabbi Kiva is saying that this is not allowed is because of the purpose of Kiddush Hashem. Like a Kiddush Hashem, but if not for the purpose of Kiddush Hashem, boin. So then boin. Boin, yeah, boin. Are you allowed to do this in a roundabout way and make the guy lose? But v'gezel kanani mishari. According to Rabbi Kiva, are you allowed to steal from a guy? And according to some Rishonim, the Gemara is asking you the question: even if this is a guy that's a guy anos, like it said before, a guy that you know that's very aggressive and where he's a gazlan, but still, are you allowed to steal from this guy? But it says in the Braisa, Rab Shimon said, this is a point that Rabbi Kiva spoke about, and Rabbi Kiva darshaned and said, when Rabbi Kiva came from Zephirin, he said, Minayin legezel kanani shehu aser. From where do we know that to steal from a kanani is not allowed? Hamad Loim, the pasuk says, when a yid is sold as an evet to a guy, achre nimker, after he's sold to a guy, gulati aloi, you have to redeem, you have to pay to redeem the seed from the guy. What does that mean? Don't just grab the yid and take him out from this guy without paying for him. You have to pay. You can't steal from a guy. Brisa further says, you would think that this guy can come and charge you double. That's how Rashi teaches here. Yigla means maybe the guy you should allow the guy to take advantage of you and charge you double to redeem this yid. The pasuk there says you have to make a calculation with the guy that bought this yid. You have to see the price that he paid, and that's how you redeem him. So the point is, you see over here that Rabbi Kiva holds that the gzela from a guy is always aser. So why does Rabbi Kiva say the only reason that it's aser is because of a Kiddush Hashem, in a case where there's the issue of Kiddush Hashem? Rav Yosef, so Rav Yosef answers, like Kashya. It's not a contradiction, it depends. Ha be'kanani. When it comes to a Kanani, so then over there, you're really allowed to steal from this guy. But Elamai, if it's an issue where it could come out the opposite of a Kiddush Hashem, so then you shouldn't. Ha beger taishav. Here we're talking about a ger taishav, so over here it's not allowed to steal from the guy. Amalei Abaye, but v'tarvayu gabi adodik sivi. But in the pasuk it says both together. It says in this pasuk we just quoted over here, it says the ger taishav, and it even talks about a Kanani as well. As the Gemara here brings from another brayse, it says there when the yid gets sold as an eved. So the brayse there says, this is the brayse that discusses why does this happen that a yid gets sold as an eved. Brayse that begins with the fact that the yid did not keep shmittah and therefore he ends up getting sold. And it says lo lucha. Not only he doesn't get sold to another yid, elo leger, he gets sold to a ger. Shanema leger. And what are we talking about here when it says that a yid gets sold as an eved and not to a ger? So leger v'lo leger tzedek. We're not talking about a ger tzedek. That's a yid. Elo leger toishav. He gets sold to a ger toishav, a guy. Shanema leger toishav. Now this ger toishav, did I clarify it before? What's the ger toishav? A ger toishav is a person, a guy that does not serve avodah zarah. He fulfills sheva mitzvahs b'nei noyach, but he's still a guy. So here the Braisa explains that he's being sold to a ger toishav, and then it says mishpachas ger that this is a yid that even got sold as an eved to a guy. And then this is a person, a yid that gets sold to the mamish avedis kechavim to do jobs for avodah zarah itself. That's where the yid's getting sold to. So the point is, the Gemara is asking, you see over here, in this pasuk itself, it talks about a yid that's getting sold to a ger taishav, or a yid that's getting sold even to a guy mamish, and still the pasuk is saying, you're not allowed to steal even from a guy that doesn't keep, that's still serving avodah zarah and so on. So therefore Rava answers, again, the stira regarding Rabbi Akiva's opinion, whether you're allowed to steal from a guy or not, loy kashya. It's not a question. Kam b'gzeiloi. When it comes to outright stealing from a guy, so that's allowed unless it's an issue of Kiddush Hashem. The kam b'afkos al-v'asai. Over here though, when it comes to something which is not gezel mamish, but when it comes to something that you owe him money for work that he did, or anything that you owe him, and over here you're stealing this that you owed him money, so in such a case, you're allowed to steal from a guy. If there's no Chilul Hashem. Again, so when it comes to Gzeila, it's always going to be Aser, not only because of the issue of Kiddush Hashem, it's completely Aser, as you learned from the Pasuk, but of course, Salva Asai, that's what Rabbi Akiva was talking about before in the Din Torah, where you don't want to pay him for some money that you owe. Over there, you're allowed to steal from him unless it's an issue of Kiddush Hashem. So the Gemara now explains that, 1 second, the Gemara has a question on this. Amalei Abaye asks on this answer, but Eved Ivri Hafka Salvasayu. What was the source that Rabbi Akiva brought that you can't steal from a guy? A yid that's sold to a guy as an Eved, and now you want to buy this yid back. Isn't that a situation of Hafka Salvasayu? Because this master paid a certain amount for this yid, so therefore he's obligated to work for him, but now you want to redeem him, you want to take him out. So that's basically the yid. This Eved owes, he has to serve his master, and now, so if you're not paying properly for this, you're just sort of not paying what you owe. You're not really stealing directly. So the Gemara says, no, Rava l'taimei, Rava follows his reasoning that he said somewhere else. The Omar Rava Eved Ivri Gufei Kani. The very body of the Eved is owned by the master, so if you're taking the Eved without paying, you're directly stealing. And therefore that's a source for the fact that you're not allowed to steal directly from a guy, but if it's something that you owe, that is something that you're allowed to take from the guy, unless there's an issue of Kiddush Hashem. Gezel Kenani Oser. To steal from a Kenani is not allowed, but Avidasai Muteres. However, a lost item that you see that you know that it belongs to a guy, that you're allowed to keep. And over here as well, there's a discussion in the Shainim whether this refers to any guy or only certain goyim, only goyim that are Ivdei Avodah Zarah in those times. It's another thing, B'chlal, that some Shainim say, the whole thing that the Gemara discusses here, in the Ge'et to the goyim, it only refers to goyim in those times that were not civilized at all, they were serving Avodah Zarah, but goyim today that are civilized, it doesn't refer to. That's what some Shainim say. The Amar Rav Huna said, from where do we know that stealing from a guy is not allowed? Shenema, so he brought a different pasuk, a different source than Rabbi Akiva. The pasuk says, that you will eat from what belongs to all the nations that Hashem gives into your possession. What does this mean? When you're conquering their territory in a war, so then you can eat and you can take from them. But if it's not in a war and you're not capturing their territory, so then you can't just take from a guy. So some Mepharshim say that Rav Huna over here is arguing with the source from what Rabbi Akiva said before. He's bringing a different source because Rabbi Akiva, Gemara before made a distinction. You're not allowed to steal outright from a guy, but if it's afkar salva'asai, not to pay something that you owe, that's allowed. But here he's bringing a source. You're not allowed to eat from a guy either way. But the only thing that's allowed is if the aveda of a guy. If you find a lost item of a guy, that's allowed. Avedasai meteres, the aveda of a guy, a lost item that you're allowed to keep. The Omer of Chama bar Guria Omarav, minayin la aveda saknani shimeteres, an aveda from a guy. From where do we know that you're allowed to keep this? Shanava, the pasuk says, l'chol aveda sachicha, that the aveda, the lost item of your brother, so you have to return. La'achicha atamachzer, v'atamachzer leknani. For your brother you return, but not to a guy. The Gemara asks on this, well, how do you know to dash from here this? Because maybe I would say, Hani mili hechadiliyasili. Sorry, maybe this is an aveda that you didn't yet pick up. It didn't come into your hands yet. What it's saying is you don't have to help and go and search and find this aveda if it's an aveda that doesn't belong to your brother. But if you have found this item, it's in your hands now, maybe here you do have an obligation to return it to a guy. So Ravina answers, the pasuk there it says he found it, he already has it in his hands. And nevertheless, when it's an aveda of a guy, you don't have to return it to a guy. Tanya Rapinchas ben Yair said, in a place where there could be a chil Hashem, afila avedasa yaser. The aveda of a guy is also forbidden to keep. Shmuel said, ta'usai muteres. A mistake that a guy makes in a business dealing and he gives you too much change for money or whatever it may be, the mistake of a guy, that's allowed. Kihad Shmuel, like the story that there was, Shmuel himself had an incident. Zavim ikuti lakna de dava b'mar de parzela. He bought from a guy this jug or this kvart, that a golden a bowl. Okay, he bought a bowl that was gold, but the guy thought that he's selling him a copper bowl. And bedalit zuzi, so he only paid 4 zuz for this, even though since it was gold, it was much more expensive. But the guy made a mistake. Ve'ivla lechad zuzah. According to Rashi, the pshat is, and not only that, he actually was supposed to pay 4 zuz, and he only paid 3, and the guy didn't realize. Others say that no, he did the opposite. He added an extra zuz. He paid a 5th zuz because he knew that he's getting over here gold instead of copper, so he paid an extra zuz. But really, it was worth much more. Okay, so here, in other words, you see here, there's a machlekes rishayim, this whole concept of ta'as akum. Is ta'as akum only in the case where the guy made the mistake? Or ta'as akum even means in a case where you are doing something and making... you're not paying him the full price for it, and the guy didn't realize. That's also allowed. It's machlekes here between Rashi and other rishayim. Another case, Rav Kahana is avim bekuti mei v'esrim chavita. Rav Kahana, so he bought from a guy 120 barrels, b'meya, and the guy thought that he's really selling him 100 barrels. And he paid him, according to Rashi, 1 zuz less, or he paid him 1 zuz more for this. And Amalei, I've kind of told the guy, Chazid Allah kasamichna. You should see, I'm relying on you for the number of barrels there. You didn't want the guy to have any tinus later. This was a mistake that the guy made, and you're allowed to take it. Ravine zavin dikla hu v'kutil etzlacha. Ravine bought the wood from a palm tree together with a guy in partnership in order to use it as wood, to cut it for wood. Amalei l'shameh, he told his servant, Kadem v'aisi me'ikare. Go and bring to me from this wood, from the root of the tree where the wood is thicker, because the kuti minyana yada, because the guy only knows the number of wood that we bought, so he's going to get the thinner part, but he's not going to realize that I got the thicker part, because he's just going to be counting the number. He's not going to realize what you took. So go and take it before. Again, because how do you read this over here? The kuti minyana yada, that is, goes together. The guy only knows the number. That's it, but he's not going to realize that you took the better part. Another case happened. Ravashi was walking along the way. He saw a branch in a vine amongst the vineyard. And he saw that there's fresh grapes there to eat. He tells the servant, Zil go chazin, you should see. If this belongs to a guy, I see. Then bring for me. If it belongs to a yid, don't bring it to me. Shama kuti. So that guy that was sitting here overheard what Ravashi said. The guy heard that he said that if it belongs to a guy, you can bring for me. the Haviyasu Pardesa. So this guy that was sitting there, he heard this. Amalei. So the guy says to Rav Ashi, and the kuti sharid, and to take from a guy, you're allowed. Amalei. So Rav Ashi answered, no, that wasn't my intention at all. Kuti shakal dami. If it's from a guy, I know the guy will accept payment from me. So then you can take from the guy, and you should pay for this. Yisrael is shakal dami. But if it belongs to a Yid, the Yid is not going to accept payment from me, from Rav Ashi, and I don't want to take something for free. I want to pay for it. That was his intention, that he said he wants to pay. This wasn't an excuse that Rav Ashi was telling this guy after the guy overheard him. This was really what Rav Ashi's kavanah was in the beginning. Because as we learned over here, everybody agrees that you can't outright go and steal from a guy. Rav Ashi for sure didn't intend to tell a servant, go and steal it from the guy. He said, if it belongs to a guy, so the guy will accept payment, so then pay for it and bring for me. The Gemara goes back to the point we said before. Gufe, Oma Shmuel, in the beginning of this whole sugya, so we brought Shmuel said, Dine, the Malchusa, Dine. The laws of the government are laws that you have to follow al Piteire. Amarave, so Rava says, Teida, I'll prove this to you. Because the Kotli Dikli, the government, they cut down palm trees that belong to private people, the Gashri Gishri, and they build bridges with this. And we are allowed to use these bridges, even though it came from private people, from their wood. What does that mean? Because if the government decides that this is what it has to be used for, we have to accept the law. Amalei Abaye, They went into people's properties. The government decided that they need this wood, and they built bridges, and yeah. Amalei Abaye asks on this, but Dilme, that's not a raya, because maybe here mishum de yaishlu minayu marayu. Maybe here the case is because the owners of these woods, they are giving up. And once they give up, so then they lose their ownership over it, and that's why we're allowed to walk on these bridges. Amalei, no. So Rav answered him and said, the yish doesn't help. If not for the fact that we have to follow the laws of the government, how does yish help? One second, that's a new question. Sorry. The Gemara says, how would yish help? What is the Gemara asking? We learned before that Yush alone, you don't acquire anything. You have to have a Yush and a Shini Rishos. That has to be a change of ownership. But over here, it was just used for bridges, so the Yush itself is not going to help. But the Gemara asks another question. But over here, these wood from the palm trees is not being taken correctly and honestly, because of the Kedama Malka. These workers that are doing this and are building bridges, they're not following the orders of the king. Why? Because Malka, what did the king say? Zilu v'kotlu mikol bagi. Get wood from all the different valleys, from different people to build the bridges. And the Inu Azli, and these workers, they're lazy. They don't want to go to different people's properties. And they go, and they cut down the trees from one person in one valley. And therefore, you can't say Dina de Machusa Dina about this. So how are we allowed to walk across these bridges? So the Gemara says, Shlucha de Malke Kemalke, the agents here of the king that are doing the job are like the king themselves. They don't have to go out of their way to go and take from different people. And the inu afsed and afshayu. These people from this property that they cut off from their property, all these trees, it's their own laws that they caused to themselves. Why? Because the bayaluhu, the inkut mikuli bagi, umishkal dami. They should go to the people of the other valleys that the trees were not cut from them and ask to get reimbursed. Look, the truth is, all of you should have participated in the building of this bridge. The fact that all the trees and the wood was taken from my property, all of you should reimburse me. So that's his right to go and get reimbursed. But meanwhile, even if you don't get reimbursed, people are allowed to walk across these bridges because of Dina de Malchus Dina.
Why is it right?
Huh?
It's not right.
Yeah, no, because really the way it was designed, l'chatchila, is that everybody has to participate and provide wood for the bridges, not just one person. Amar Rava says, Man, the Mishtakach, Bevei Dori. When the tax collector, this is going back to the tax collector that comes to collect, so let's say there's a property that's owned in partnership by a few people, and some of the partners already took all of their produce into their home, and now there's one person, one partner that's still left there in the property with his produce. So Man, the Mishtakach, Bevei Dori. There's one partner that's still here left out in the field with his produce, and now the tax collector comes to collect. Para Manasa de Malke, he pays up for all the rest of the people that already took their things into the house. And then later he's going to have to go and get reimbursed from the other partners. But Vahane Mili, when is this that the tax collector could come and collect from this one partner also from all the other partners, that's shutfa. That's if it's a partner. So if they're all partners, because he has a partnership in the actual property itself, so he has to pay for everyone else, and then he'll get reimbursed later. Avalarisa, but if it's just a sharecropper, he has no ownership in the property itself. He's just a sharecropper that gets a certain percent. And now the tax collector wants to take from his share, from what belongs to the owner and belongs to other people. So arisusi kamapik, he's just getting a certain share here, and the tax collector is not allowed to take from him the taxes that is supposed to be collected from the other people as well. Rava said another halacha regarding collecting taxes. Bar masa me'abit. If a tax collector wants to take a collateral, he wants to collect from you the taxes that really has to be collected from other people of the city, he's allowed to do that, and then later you'll have to get reimbursed from the other people of the city. The Hanimili, what kind of taxes are we talking about that one person in the city will have to pay for someone else? The Borla Ara, the taxes that is collected from the land, the property taxes, or Vikarga, or het taxes, the Ha'ai Shata, that is from this year, that you still owe from this year. Avoshata the Cholif, if this is a het tax from a previous year, so this is really something that you don't owe anymore. Since the king was already appeased, it's already a new year, and you're not supposed to collect this, so therefore the time is up, so you shouldn't collect this. Another halacha said, Hani didairi dori b'toichatchum. This is talking about animals that are used. These animals, the dung of these animals is used as fertilizer. So when you have these animals of the goyim that are being used for this purpose, and they're in the tchum, meaning they're inside the city or close to the city. Asr likach man, from these animals, you're not allowed to buy these animals from these goyim. My time, what is the reason? Mishum de ma'arve chiyusa de masa ba'adayu. Because these goyim, they also steal other people's animals that could belong to Yidden. If you want to buy an animal from these goyim, you may be buying from a guy that's a gazlan that stole an animal from a Yid. But if it's chutz l'tchum, if these are animals that the goyim have that are far away from the city, then you're allowed to buy from them, because then we're not concerned that the goy maybe has also amongst his animals from the animals of Yidden. However, Ravina added to that, if we see that the owner of an animal is running after these goyim that have animals that are far away from the city, even if it's far away from the city, you're not allowed to buy from these goyim, because they have amongst their animals also the animals that belong to Yidden.